Let me tell you a story from Monrovia, Liberia. Not the Monrovia you see in the headlines, but the Monrovia of dusty football fields. Zinc rooftops, ocean breezes, and big dreams, born in small neighborhoods. Two boys grew up there, Emmanuel and Joseph. They were inseparable. If you saw one, you saw the other. They played football, barefoot in the red dirt. They fetched water for their mothers. During holidays, they helped on small family palm farms just outside the city. One evening, sitting on empty paint buckets, they watched a truck overloaded with oil palm fruit rumble past. Emmanuel leaned forward and said, "One day, I'll own land bigger than that truck can carry." Joseph laughed. "And what will you do with all that land?" "I'll be rich," Emmanuel said confidently. "Very rich." Joseph thought for a moment. "I just want to do something that matters." Emmanuel nudged him. "Money matters," they laughed. But that small moment, that was the beginning of two different definitions of success. Years passed, Liberia's oil palm industry was growing. Investors were coming. Land was being cleared. Opportunities were everywhere. Emmanuel moved fast. He studied the market. He partnered with suppliers. He took risks. Soon, he had dozens of hectares under cultivation, then more, then more. He walked through his plantation like a general inspecting troops. Tall palm trees stretched in perfect rows. Workers harvested heavy fruit bunches. Machines roared. He felt powerful. At home, he built a modern house. Tiled floors, running water, a generator humming at night. One evening, his wife Sarah stood beside him on their balcony. "You've worked so hard," she said. He smiled proudly. "This is just the beginning." But she added, quietly, "You've also been away a lot." He waved it off. Expansion requires sacrifice. A week later, their son tugged at his shirt. "Daddy, are you coming to my school program on Friday?" Emmanuel checked his calendar. There was an important meeting with a major buyer. "I'll try," he said. Friday came. He chose the meeting. The contract was successful. His partners congratulated him. The numbers looked good. That night, when he got home, he saw a photo on the table. His son standing on stage, smiling but scanning the crowd, looking for him. Emmanuel picked up the photo. For a moment, the numbers in his bank account felt smaller than that empty chair. Joseph also entered the oil palm business. But he moved differently. He started with family land. Smaller, slower, intentional. He worked alongside his laborers. He knew their names. He asked about their children. His wife Mary once asked him, "Why don't you expand faster? Others are growing quickly." Joseph sat beside her under a palm tree. "I want growth," he said, "but I don't want to lose myself chasing it." Mary looked at him carefully. "Just make sure you're not hiding fear behind wisdom." That sentence stayed with him. One rainy season, disaster hit. Flooding damaged nearly a quarter of his crop. That evening, he sat at their small wooden table, silent. Mary placed food in front of him. "Are you regretting your choices?" she asked gently. He shook his head. "No, I'm learning." The next day, he gathered his workers. "We've lost part of the harvest," he told them honestly, "but we won't cut wages. We will adjust. We recover together." One worker blinked in surprise. Other bosses wouldn't say that. Joseph smiled. "We are not other bosses." Loyalty deepened that day. As years passed, Emmanuel's business became one of the largest independent suppliers in the region. People greeted him differently. They stood when he entered rooms. They called him Big Man. Joseph remained respected but modest. At a community gathering, someone whispered loudly, "Emmanuel has really made it." Joseph heard it. For a brief moment, comparison crept in. Meanwhile, Emmanuel felt a different kind of pressure. Loans, international price fluctuations, competition expanding faster. At night, he lay awake, staring at the ceiling. What if the market drops? What if a contract fails? What if I lose everything? His identity was no longer Emmanuel the person. It was Emmanuel the successful businessman. One afternoon, Emmanuel's polished SUV stopped near Joseph's modest processing shed. They embraced warmly as they walked between the tall palm trees. Emmanuel looked around. "You're still small," he teased. Joseph smiled. "And you're still busy." Emmanuel laughed. "You could triple this land in 2 years," Joseph replied calmly. "And you could rest for 2 days without checking your phone." They stopped walking. Emmanuel's smile faded slightly. "I'm building security for my family," he said defensively. Joseph looked at him, not judging, just steady. "Does your family feel secure?" he asked softly, "or replaced?" The wind moved through the palm leaves. Emmanuel didn't answer. Then the market turned. International palm oil prices dropped sharply. One major buyer delayed payment indefinitely. Cash flow tightened. Banks began calling. At home, tension filled the air. Sarah said gently, "Maybe it's time to slow down," he snapped. "You don't understand what's at stake." She looked at him, hurt. "I understand that we barely see you." One night, exhausted and overwhelmed, Emmanuel collapsed from stress. When he opened his eyes in a hospital room in Monrovia, Joseph was sitting beside him. Emmanuel whispered, "I built everything, and now I feel like I'm losing it." Joseph leaned forward. "What is everything?" he asked quietly. "My land, my contracts, my status." Joseph paused. "And if those change, do you disappear too?" Tears filled Emmanuel's eyes. "For the first time," he admitted, "I don't know who I am without success." Recovery forced reflection. Emmanuel returned to his plantation, but slower this time. He noticed things he had ignored: the workers' exhaustion, unsafe shortcuts, his own constant tension. He gathered his staff. "I've been chasing growth," he admitted, "but from now on, we build differently." He improved conditions. He reduced reckless expansion. He invested in community projects and at home. He sat in the front row at his son's next school event. When his son ran into his arms afterward, something shifted inside him. Not excitement, not pride, peace. Meanwhile, Joseph reflected to Key, realized he had sometimes avoided expansion out of fear of imbalance. He approached Emmanuel. "Let's partner," Joseph said. "But we grow with principles." Emmanuel smiled. "Roots first," he said. "Then branches," Joseph finished. Years later, they stood together, overlooking a plantation larger than either had imagined as boys. But this time, the growth had a foundation. Workers were treated fairly. Families were supported. Children attended schools, funded by their business. Emmanuel turned to Joseph and laughed. "We were both half right." Joseph nodded, and half wrong. They stood quietly as the wind moved through thousands of palm leaves. Here is what they learned and what we must consider. Material success is powerful. It builds houses. It creates jobs. It transforms communities. But if it becomes your identity, you will live in fear of losing it. Spiritual grounding, faith, integrity, purpose gives you stability. But if you use it as an excuse to avoid growth, you limit your impact. Branches need roots. Roots need branches. At the end of your life, you will not only count profit, you will remember. Were you present for your family? Did you protect your integrity under pressure? Did your success bless others? Did you have peace within? Because the richest harvest is not only measured in tons of palm fruit, it is measured in the kind of person you became while growing it. And that is the true balance between the spiritual and the material. Thanks for watching.